There's a famous statement in the movie Fight Club, which illustrates the point on this video very clearly, in which Tyler Durden, the imaginary character, says that sticking feathers up your ass doesn't make you a chicken. My name is Pablo, this channel is Meditation Amsterdam, and today I want to explore how sharing, understanding, saying and listening to very high level spiritual statements that come in short form doesn't do much to have those realizations bloom in ourselves, and that they create a risk that we bypass the work that we need to do on ourselves to become fully liberated and self-realized. I think we are all familiar with the statements that I'm talking about. Some of them have to do with you're an infinite being, or it's all an illusion, or it's all a simulation. You are one with everything is another famous one. And my favorite, a little fortune cookie statement: you are a spiritual being having a human experience. Wow. And what a profundity that is. And how much does that resonate with our intuition, right? So let's not take away the value of these statements as very clear pointers towards greater truths that we want to embody. But to hear the statement, to intellectually understand it, to truly believe it, and even to have it evoke deep emotions in us, does not equate to embodying the reality of that statement and to have our perceptual reality coincide with that statement. In other words, it is one for me to say that I'm one with everything and to really believe it. And it is another one for all my senses and my moment-to-moment reality to actually confirm that in an unequivocal way, so that it would be impossible for me to be upset at another person, because in my actual perception and the way I process things, that other has lost his or her otherness. And so has my entire environment. In other words, my non-dual reality is a tangible perceptual shift that has taken place through processes which are in some case coincidental or natural, and in other cases are evoked through the use of psychedelics, for example, or the long practice of spiritual or psychosomatic practices such as breath work, trauma release, meditation, and the kind of things that we try to invite you to practice in this channel. So the risk of these statements is that we confuse mental understanding mental understanding and also embodied knowledge with insight and fully embodied realization of that knowledge. From that perspective, you could say that I can now unequivocally tell you you're a spiritual being. Now, maybe that's not news to you. It's certainly not news to me. And right now, when we both share in that phrase, you could say that I don't know anything that you don't. But because I've been hacking away at my psychosomatics for 10 years, when I say that statement, I mean it, and it is confirmed by my perceptual reality. Whereas you're going to start munching on it if you haven't done a lot of the work, or you're at the start of this journey. You're going to munch on it, and it's going to trigger 1,000 questions, and it might either make you bypass the trauma release and somatic work and all the parasympathetic self-regulation that you need to learn, and getting into your psychology and resolving those things. It might hijack that process by either making you think that you already get it, or by triggering a host of questions about spirituality that are A, impossible to answer, and B, completely irrelevant to the process of self-realization. So these statements are insights that arise from an embodied and perceptual understanding of things, which is an outcome. Now, They can be used at the start to trigger your curiosity and tickle your intuitive understanding that this is in fact the case, that you in fact are a spiritual being. But that doesn't equate to having them do the work for you. The work still needs to be done. And it is one thing to say, I'm one with everything when you are at the start of this process. And it's another one to say, I am one with everything when that process has come to, if not full fruition, at least fully confirmed from a perceptual and embodied basis that this is the case. So this, in summary, is an invitation to try and avoid getting caught up in statements or trying to understand and dissect and somehow figure out statements that are above your pay grade. Let those insights and realization bloom and arise and truly carry you when the time is due as an outcome of the work that you're doing on yourself. Yes, you can use them as inspiration, but don't be tempted to use them as explanation that replaces the work that you need to do, or God forbid, as a complete bypass or a complete substitute for the work that needs to be done, because then the embodied realization that they stand for will fail to arise in you. And that would be a real shame. And it's, you would be missing out on the real honey of self-realization, because you're talking about honey all the time, but really you're just talking about it on a mental and emotional level, but the perceptual shift has not taken place. That perceptual shift is contingent on your neurology having a different orientation, being far more integrated, and that doesn't just happen. For some people, it just happens naturally. For others, they have that shift at hearing these statements. The shift happens very, very, very quickly, which means that the neurology perhaps was already primed for this to take place. For many of us, that's simply not the case. For many of us, it's long and bitter work. And in those cases, it would be a shame to miss out on the fruits of that long and bitter work by thinking that saying I'm one with everything or I'm a spiritual being in a human experience already allows you to bypass the whole thing. You already get it, and therefore, doing your work on the meditation cushion or your breath work or your embodying practices or your self-inquiry practice or journaling is not worth doing, because that is simply not the case. The work does need to be done for these realizations to be embodied. Now, I'm very curious to hear what you think about this, so do share it in the comment section. And as usual, if you think that this is valuable content, then sharing it, liking the video, and subscribing to the channel is very motivating to me, and it also makes the content much more available to others who may also benefit from it. And as usual, I'll be back with more. Thanks for listening, and until then, cheerio and bye-bye.